curious people. So I am going to tell you the story of my first two surgeries. One was a biopsy and the other one was a port placement. The biopsy was to fully understand that I did have Hodgkin's lymphoma. They wanted to test the cells and to make sure that it was 100% a match, which it was. So I do have Hodgkin's, which is what they thought initially, but they wanted to be 100%. I also did the biopsy because it would help with staging the cancer itself. So the staging, they did it based on two things. One, what they got from the biopsy, and two, how much of my body was affected by the cancer and where the cancer was. The second surgery was my port placement, which is right here. Still scarred and kind of bruised. I don't know how long it will take to heal 100%, or if that area of my skin is just going to look kind of awkward for a long time. I typically cover it up when I'm at work, just so people don't really ask questions about it. I'm not really like insecure about it, but I don't want it in people's face because it's kind of ugly. But the port placement is to protect my veins from the chemotherapy, because the chemotherapy that I am on can cause a lot of vein damage if it is like too strong or in your smaller veins, like in your arms, which is why I also opted for a port in my chest versus a PICC line. Is I figured this way I will receive the chemotherapy, my heart would pump out the blood, which would also dilute the chemotherapy and go throughout my body. So it's a little plastic piece under the skin, which you can see right here. It's kind of like a triangle, and then you can see this line that goes up and into my neck. It's a like catheter that goes into the vein into a larger artery that then will disperse the chemotherapy when I do get it, and fluids and things like that I get through my port. I've made the choice that I don't do any blood draw or anything that is not chemo related through my port. So I only access my port for chemo. I don't do any blood work or any medication, nothing like that through the port. I just think it will minimize blood clots, and I think it would also minimize chance of infection if we just minimize how much it's messed with in general. I'm okay with I have one good vein in my left arm and one good vein in my right arm, so we just go back and forth when it comes to blood draws or giving me fluids on days that aren't chemo days. The surgery for my port was easier than the surgery for my biopsy. So the surgery for my biopsy, and I don't know if it was because it was my first surgery in general, or if it was because they actually they cut something inside of me and took something away, and my body had like a deeper wound than just a surface wound. But I remember the first 4 to 5 days of recovering from my biopsy, I couldn't even use my neck muscles. I couldn't lift my head off the pillow. I kind of just would tense up my shoulder muscles to compensate, because using my neck muscles or any kind of strain on my neck was so painful that I felt like a pulling in that area, and I just was so weak in that area that I couldn't use them. So I would pretty much just lay there or ask like a family member to adjust my head, and I just lay there for a couple of days. I took pain meds the first day, and then after that I didn't take any. I didn't feel like the pain kept me up at night or the pain was too much. I just felt like the pain caused me to not be able to use my neck muscles until my body used that strength again. By the 5th day, I was pretty fine. I had a little bit of soreness on the surface, so when I'd shower and stuff like that, I'd just let water run on it. I wouldn't like scrub that area. I don't think I really messed with this area of my body until 2.5 months after both surgeries, because I had the surgeries really close together, that I associated this area with pain for a while. So I just kind of neglected it and had other people in my family like look at it, help me get the adhesive off from like the bandages and stuff like that. So after I had my biopsy done, I healed from that for about 3 weeks, I think. 3 weeks, maybe a month, somewhere around there. I know that the wound was completely closed, and it was my larger line right here was my biopsy scar. I also have a scar up here, and then obviously the scar for the port. So this line was my biopsy, and this was pretty much fused together and healed really well before I went in for my port placement. When I went in for my port placement, I wasn't even put under. I was just sedated, and then they had a curtain, and I was listening to music with all of the nurses and surgeon that was around me. We were all singing along and talking while the surgeon did the work. It was took not even a full hour. It was quite an easy, relaxing surgery. I felt more comfortable in this surgery than the biopsy, because in the biopsy I went to sleep, and it was really hard for me to come out of it because I think I'm just such a little person, and I don't have a lot of medication that goes in my body that regularly. So once they put me to sleep, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sleep forever. I'm not waking up, and my body was just so comfortable being asleep and relaxing that I didn't want to come out of it. And so I think it took them a while to wake me up, which scared me when they told me that. So I was really happy to know with my port placement that I wasn't being put to sleep, that I was just, you know, kind of be sedated, and I was able to like talk to people, like, you know, like, how's it going, and I felt like I can control the environment, which obviously I was not in control, but it made me have a little bit more peace of mind. Healing from my port didn't hurt the same way that my biopsy hurt. The port placement, it hurt more on the surface, and I think I was more sore in my chest area, and that's because they had to, this is TMI and gross, so don't listen if you are really squeamish about surgeries and blood and stuff. I warned you. Okay, so they had to rip my skin off of my like muscle and the fatty tissue and stuff to put the port in like a safe pocket under my skin, and then feed the catheter through my vein into my larger jugular area, blah blah blah. And I think that the reason why right here hurt is because they had to pull away from my muscle, and the fat and all of that stuff was really messed with. The way the surgeon explained it was that he took his 2 fingers and really just swept around there, and then placed it. So I had pain in my chest, and it radiated down into my armpit. Luckily I wasn't working at this time. I was still, because I took 6 weeks off in the beginning to get the 2 surgeries and to start chemo, and to really assess where I was going to be in life during this time, if working was in the cards for me at all. Luckily it is, but at that time I wouldn't have been able to work just because of the pain and the pulling I felt in my armpit with the port placement. And my neck muscles still haven't 100% recovered from the initial surgery at that point. So I had a little bit of pain in my neck from the biopsy, and then I had a little bit of pain in my chest. Nothing I needed pain medication for. I didn't take pain medication until my first round of chemo, and that's a whole nother story of why I don't take any medication at all now. I haven't taken any medication in 2 months, just on the chemo day, but that could be another adventure. Yeah, I guess that's kind of my story about my 2 surgeries. Both of them went really well. I didn't have any complications. Still to this day, my port is fully functioning. I still use it. My biopsy scar is not sensitive. My port isn't sensitive, and it's been 4 months. And that's new. Like, my port was really, really sensitive for a while. I couldn't even like have clothes on top. I think the skin, the nerves were just so raw. Yeah, they're good. They're doing good. I will have another surgery in a couple of months whenever I am cancer free to remove the port, I'm assuming it's going to go just as well. I'm just going to have another scar. Maybe they'll use the same scar. I don't know. Either way, both surgeries went really well, and I'm very, very thankful for that because I was terrified. All right, well, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed our little story time. Bye-bye.